My son, 39, daughter-in-law, 39, and grandson, nearly adult, recently moved in with me, male, 59, and my daughter, teen, because of some problems. The problem is that I absolutely hate it when someone does nothing all day. I make it clear to my kids that as soon as they turn 18, they must either study, get a job, or move out. My daughter-in-law is a stay-at-home mom. I don't have a problem with stay-at-home moms. However, I made it clear to her that if she lives here, she needs to do all the chores, and she agreed. They moved in with us 2 days ago, and my daughter-in-law cooked dinner. The food was edible, but it was overcooked and too salty. My son and grandson were fine with it, since they were used to eating her food, but my daughter immediately spat it out and had to make something else for herself. I gently told her that the food was bad and asked her to do better next time. She agreed. Last night, it happened again. My daughter couldn't eat the food. They had a fight in which my daughter-in-law insisted that the food tasted good. It didn't, and my daughter told her she was useless and said she would rather do the cooking herself from now on. There's also the problem with her cleaning. I won't say she doesn't clean, but it's really not up to our standards, so my daughter and I end up cleaning again. So I decided to talk to my daughter-in-law and gave her two options. Since she's failing as a stay-at-home mom, she'll either get a job or move out. Now, my son and daughter-in-law think that we're idiots for expecting her to get a job. Not the idiot. Aside from the issue of housekeeping and cooking standards, daughter-in-law's child is nearly adult and doesn't need a full-time stay-at-home mom. But apparently your son and daughter-in-law can't afford to house themselves, so your daughter-in-law doesn't have the luxury of being at home. She needs to work to provide for herself and her family. You guys sound awful. I feel sorry for daughter-in-law. You are the idiot for this whole thing. You could ask them to start paying rent, but you and your daughter are coming at her with the guns blazing, and it's only been 2 days. Give the lady some time to adjust. Dear Lord, what a horrible father-in-law you are. My daughter immediately spat it out. My daughter told her she's useless. What are you doing about your daughter's behavior? That is rude and unacceptable. It's really not up to our standards? Then pay for a maid instead of taking advantage of another person's hardship to get free labor. It's been 2 days. I'm sure whatever problems you're glossing over are causing them some stress. Expecting perfection is just setting yourself up for disappointment and idiotic behavior. I think everyone's the idiot here. You and your daughter are jerks for being rude about someone else's cooking. But your daughter-in-law's the bigger idiot for being lazy. She stopped being a stay-at-home mom when her kid became old enough to drive and get an after-school job. He doesn't need her to wipe his butt now. It's time for your daughter-in-law to pursue her ambitions outside the home. If not paid employment, then volunteer or get involved in an organization or church. Job training courses, college courses, something that gives her purpose and gets her out of the house. My daughter is 24, Kelly, and my youngest daughter is 23, Sarah. They both had very different high school experiences. Kelly was very social and in different sports. Sarah was very academic and had a small group of friends. Kelly got a sports scholarship for college but soon dropped out after she failed multiple classes. She basically partied and did her sport and nothing else. Sarah went on to finish her degree and is doing well in life. Kelly has a jealousy issue, and I've talked with her about it before. She is never happy when Sarah has an accomplishment. Today, Sarah told us that she's going to go on a cruise for her vacation this year. Kelly's always wanted to go on a cruise and couldn't afford it with her waiter job. In the car, she blew up, saying that Sarah was a loser in high school, so it isn't fair that she has all this now. She went on for a bit, and when I had enough, I told her that life wasn't like high school and that she was the loser now. This started an argument, and she called me a witch. Am I the idiot for telling my daughter that life isn't high school? Not the idiot. While it's never good to call your child a loser, you were using the word she used for her sister in a conditional manner, so I'll give that a pass. I think it's probably closer to the truth that Sarah was never a loser. She was just playing a different game. She did what she was interested in, had close friends, and probably never wanted to be popular. Research has shown that siblings intentionally differentiate themselves from each other. I had 5 siblings and we were all very different. My closest brother, only 14 months older, was on the chess club in high school. I could never beat him at home, so I never joined. In this case, since Kelly was older and liked sports, Sarah could never be as good as Kelly in sports, so she chose to focus on classwork. Kelly was a favorite with the coaches, and Sarah was a favorite with the teachers. Nah, she's acting like a loser who peaked in high school and equates everything back to high school. You clearly put things in perspective in a way that she can understand, and she did not like it. Did she think being cool and good at a sport that she no longer plays would get her through life? Judging by the story, I think it's a safe bet to say that she did not think, period. Yesterday was Mother's Day here in Sweden, and it was my first Mother's Day. My daughter's a newborn, and unfortunately, my husband worked this Sunday, so his mother texted me, telling me she would love to come over and help me get the house in order and cook some food. I told her that she didn't have to, but she insisted, and I told her that I was so grateful. So she came around 7 in the morning and immediately talked about how messy it was and that we would have to do something about it. I said I knew, and again was so thankful that she came. She said that it was the least she could do and asked to hold the baby. I handed her over and thought she just wanted to be with her before she got going, but immediately she told me that she got it and I could go on and do what I needed in the house. I was confused, and I guess she saw that because she said, "To clean. That's why I'm here, right?" I didn't want to say anything and just started with it. At about 12, she asked if I was done soon because she was hungry. I said that I could just take the baby so that she could make herself something, to which she said that she would just wait until I thought it was an appropriate time to eat. I was done at about 3 in the afternoon, and she said that I shouldn't hesitate if I needed help again, and that she was glad she could help me with everything. My husband got home at around 5, and he said something like, "I'm glad she was such a help to you. I hope you got some rest this day." I told him that I didn't, and that I cleaned everything while his mother spent time on our sofa watching the baby. He told me that I couldn't be serious, but I assured him I was. He went out of the kitchen and called his mom. I don't know what she said, but she texted me later. She basically told me that this was the last time she would ever help me, and that I would be ungrateful and sick if I thought she would clean someone else's house. She told me that she cleaned every day while my husband was a newborn, and you didn't hear her complain. I feel like an idiot and wonder if I should have just lied to my husband and if I'm ungrateful. OMG, I am so mad for you. Screw that woman. 1 week postpartum on Mother's Day, and she does this to you? You should have been resting. Show your husband the text message and explain why you want to go no contact with her and block her number. Don't deal with her anymore. If your husband wants to see her, fine, but you shouldn't have to deal with this crap. Not the idiot, but my pettiness would have replied with, "I don't remember asking for your help. I remember you offering to help me clean. If your memory's bad due to your age, I'm more than happy to go through our text and send you a screenshot of exactly what you offered. Also, I don't need your help of any kind when it comes to my baby. I appreciate your concern." OP, this only seems like the beginning of a very tiring relationship with your mother-in-law now that she's a grandma. Be prepared to set some boundaries with her in the future, and remember that you are the mother to your baby, and she has no right to make you feel bad about anything regarding your child. I am so sorry. Happy belated Mother's Day. My fiance, 30 male, recently bought a house, and I, 28 female, moved in with him. The house is in his name only, but we arranged that he pay the mortgage and I pay all the utilities and groceries. He's been trying to get me to see the home as ours, but I still consider it his since my name is nowhere on the mortgage or deed or even rental agreement. He's been taking care of all the home ownership expenses. Anyway, my family was super excited when they heard that he bought a place and that we would be moving to a house instead of continuing to live in our small apartments. They've loved him like a son, and we're so happy he finally became a homeowner. My mom and her sister, my aunt, asked if they could come visit us for the holiday since they were off and wanted to see the new place. They live about 3 hours away and wanted to take the train. I initially told them no since it was so close to the time we were finishing the move, but when my fiance heard about it, he assured me it would be okay and he'd be happy to have them visit. We bought all the furniture we needed, beds for the guest rooms, etc. His sister and her kids were also going to be in town and visiting us, so it was going to be nice to have everyone meet and spend the day together. At first, everything was going well, and everyone was getting along. My mom and aunt were cooking while his sister was just hanging out and talking, and the kids were watching TV. My mom started washing a dish, and I told her not to use the sponge to clean the counters because my fiance didn't like that. Something about the bacteria spreading from the sponge to the counter. We clean our counters with sponges back home. I grew up doing it this way, so I figured I'd tell her beforehand so he wouldn't get upset. He decided to make this a topic of conversation and debate and asked his sister for her thoughts on this. He seemed to want to prove he was right about the bacteria thing, since it was something we had argued about way back when I washed dishes at his apartment for the first time. However, his sister disagreed with his logic. She pointed out that the sponge in the sink was collecting bacteria either way. He proceeded to pull up the CDC articles and try to prove his point, but her logic also made sense. She didn't think it was a hill to die on and teased him about being a psycho over the bacteria and sponge thing. He finally dropped it, and we started talking about other things. We were talking about the house, and I brought up that he's been very careful with things in the new house and joked that he's even been waking up at 4 a.m. to trim hedges in the front lawn like a psycho. He laughed, but I later learned he took offense to my comment. At some point, my mom made a joke about him being quite particular about his new house and laughed along with my aunt. Before this, he had already joked around with her through the security cameras when she went outside scaring her and telling her to wipe her feet before coming in. He thought it was funny to joke around with her like that. I knew there was an element of truth to his joking, but my mom took it in good fun though, since she also jokes around with him. So that was fine, I guess. The kids were sitting alone on the couch, and I was trying to be a good host, so I asked if they wanted anything to eat or drink. His nephew, pre-tween, asked for a cookie, which I gave him along with a napkin. He went back to the couch to continue watching TV with his brother. I didn't see it, but he dropped cookie crumbs on the couch while eating. Obviously, not on purpose. They're good kids. My fiance saw the crumbs and immediately got upset and started scolding him. I stepped in and said it was my fault, that I gave him the cookie. My fiance turned to me and scolded me about eating on the couch in front of everyone. I apologized multiple times, and he kept going on about how the sofa was brand new and there shouldn't be any eating on it, and he gave me stern looks like a parent gives a child. After I apologized for the third time, his sister stepped in and was like, "Okay, bro, she apologized. I think she gets it." I was super embarrassed to have him scold me like that in front of everyone, but I shrugged it off. We ended the night by shooting off fireworks with his nephews, and then they went home with his sister, and we went to sleep. At this point, my family got the sense that he was very serious about the upkeep of the house and started feeling uncomfortable and like they were intruding on his very clean space. The next day, they spent most of the day outside of the house, shopping and going for walks, so they wouldn't be in the way. My fiance spent the day locked in his office, working and playing video games. He didn't really come out. So at night, I decided to go on their walks with them, and my mom mentioned she would rent a hotel room so she wouldn't bother us too much. I guess it broke my heart a little bit hearing that because I realized we'd made her and my aunt feel unwelcome in our new home. When we got back, it was late, and my fiance was still in his office playing video games. I could tell he was also being distant, and I didn't want to bother him, so I went to bed. He joined me a few minutes later and wanted to talk. He said he didn't like the comment I made earlier, calling him a psycho in my story, and that he was also unhappy with my family joking and laughing about him. He said he felt disrespected in his own house. I felt like I had so many things to say to him, but my family was in the next room, and my fiance has a tendency to yell whenever we have disagreements, so I just apologized to him. I also apologized on my family's behalf and told him they didn't mean any harm. From my perspective, it looked like he was joking right back with them, but I was sorry either way. I also pointed out his sister had also called him a psycho and asked if he was upset with her too. He said he had already talked to his sister about that, and she apologized and they were good. My family was due to stay with us for a couple of more days, so after I apologized for everything, I told him it felt like he cared more about his precious new house than the people in it. Anyway, I told them that after I dropped them off at the train station on their last day, I'd be leaving too, and that it was over between us. He wouldn't need to worry about us messing up his place or disrespecting him in his own house anymore. Over the next couple of days, my family sensed something was off, but all I told them that he was mad at me over a disagreement. I didn't tell them that he was upset with them, but they felt it. He locked himself up in his room for the rest of their stay, and whenever he would come out, he completely ignored us, wouldn't even look their way, or mutter more than a hi. I think he only came downstairs once while we were watching TV to snatch the remote and turn the bass off because it was rumbling in his room upstairs. He didn't say a word to any of us as he did it. My aunt was hurt. He didn't bother to come out of his room and say goodbye as they were leaving. Even through all that, my aunt's last words to me at the train station were for me to make up with him because she loves both of us so much. I've been feeling so conflicted about all of this. On one hand, I feel bad for calling him a psycho, even if it was in a joking manner. But on the other hand, I've been feeling so bad for my family and how they must have felt staying in a house with that kind of energy when I know they had good intentions. So am I the idiot for breaking up with my fiancé? Not the idiot. He bought a house, greatly shifting the power dynamic between you, and immediately began to exert that power. That's a blessing, OP. You said fiancé, not husband. No kids, just hurt feelings. He treated your family and you like trash and showed zero remorse. His own sister tried to stick up for you. He's not begging you to come back because he thinks he has all the power, and you would be an idiot to leave. You're better off on your aunt's couch than you are with this psycho. I don't even think his sister will return to his place. Girl, count the number of times you had to apologize to him throughout this story. Really think about how you felt when he was criticizing you in front of your family, or when you were afraid to say how you felt because you didn't want your family to hear him yell at you, or when he gave your entire family the silent treatment because he didn't like one of your jokes. I'm so glad you left him. Everyone's the idiot here. Even though he was completely correct about the sponges, everyone ganged up on him and called him psycho. He had a right to be upset with your family. You should have defended him to your family and not joined in. That being said, he totally overreacted about the cookie. As for his behavior after you ended the engagement, what did you expect him to do? It was unreasonable to expect him to pretend for several days that everything was fine. He was civil and left you alone, which is about all that could be expected. You should have waited until your family left to break up. Doing it that night guaranteed more awkwardness. You are the idiot. Why on earth would you invite so many family members for a visit right after moving in? For longer than a day? Okay, a 3-hour trip. Let them stay overnight. Then they leave. Fiancé was clearly overwhelmed by the length of their stay, hence he hid playing games. Everyone knows relatives and fish stink after 3 days, and since these aren't his relatives, he likely had had it after 3 hours.